Okay, let's start. So the purpose of, first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Dor. You probably saw me in the chat from time to time. I'm much less present than Ori is. You probably talked to Ori multiple times in private messages and questions and stuff like that. But I'm actually, both me and Ori are the co-founders of Pornix. If you have any questions, everyone is muted at the moment just to avoid noise in the background. But if you have any questions, just feel free to write it in the chat, and I will try to make stops from time to time to answer all the questions. The purpose of this webinar or meeting or whatever you call this is basically go over the configuration of the bot, try to explain the different types of things you can configure and how you like maybe a little bit go into when you would use these different configurations. As I mentioned, this is also recorded, and I'm going to post this recording on YouTube later on. Ori, do you want to say hello? Ori is also here.
Hey guys.
That was Ori. Okay, so this is, I'm assuming everyone can see my screen right here. This is our bot. We have two sections of configuration. We very recently split it up to these two things right in the main menu. The general configuration has more of the general stuff, hence the name, like client management, where you can add new clients for new exchanges or other clients for the same exchange. I don't know if all of you know this, but we very recently changed the limitation on the number of clients per exchange to 2. Well, it used to be 4. We basically did that because we started seeing some people, how to put that delicately, they kind of abused the number of clients we allowed and started opening clients for their friends, which is fine. You know, we allowed it, but we kind of decided just to reduce it to 2 for the time being, just to avoid that. If you have a specific requirement for more than 2, then feel free to ask Ori. We will also add options to upgrade that with payment in the future. So that's the client option, where you can delete clients, update the keys, and so on. Channels is basically where you can either see your existing subscriptions or subscribe to new channels. You also have a link for that in the main menu nowadays, where you can just subscribe to a channel and very easily also start auto trading based on the channel. Subscription is just where you see your actual subscription to the bot, where you can extend and upgrade your subscription. And notifications is where you can enable notifications generally if you don't have it activated already, or you can also disable specific notification types. For example, I'm sure some of you don't especially enjoy, well, actually it depends on the person. I know Ori enjoys them, but the trailing updated can send a lot of messages sometimes because it basically gives you notification every time your trailing order change price. If the price increases, this can literally happen every couple of seconds. So if you don't want to get that anymore, just go into trailing updated. I have it disabled right now. This is why I see the enabled, right? But if I go back there, notifications, actions, trailing updated. Right now, if you want to disable, just click on the disable button. And that's how you get rid of these notifications. You can do that to other notification types as well. So this is the general configuration. I think it's less interesting and less important to what we want to talk about. What we want to focus on in this webinar is the trading configuration. Okay, so let's go here. You will have the option to choose the client because the configuration is specific per client. It might be a lot of work if you have multiple clients, but you only need to do it once generally, and then you can just stay with the same configurations for a long period of time, hopefully. And then you can basically see the overview of your current configuration, okay? From trailing to the stop limit price reduction, default stops, number of entry target. I'm gonna go over all of these in this webinar. I think let's start with strategies, because if someone already heard the webinar, is probably interested in the new strategies we added, specifically the custom strategies. So let's go into strategies. Strategies will basically allow you to set the default percentage you will buy or sell, depending if it's an entry strategy or take profit strategy. So the default percentage you will buy or sell in each of the targets, in each trade that is created automatically for you. Okay, so that can be either with auto trading, or one-click follow. Okay, so this applies to both of them. I'm going to go over exactly what it means to override a single configuration later on. But let's just start by understanding what strategies we even offer. Okay, so let's go into take profit strategy in this case. Basically, the take profit strategies and entry strategies are pretty much identical. So what I'm saying applies to that as well. We also recently, very recently released a video tutorial about the strategies, which gives examples for all of these. So feel free to go there and to check out our YouTube channel and see that video if you need more information, okay? But just very briefly, one target basically means that you're gonna sell everything in the first target and ignore the other targets, okay? So if you have 4 take profit targets, you're gonna sell everything in the first one, and 2, 3, and 4 will just be ignored. You're not gonna sell anything there. 2 targets is similar, you're just gonna sell half in the first target, half in the second target, and then ignore all the others. 3 targets, very similarly, you're gonna sell a third in each of the first 3 targets and ignore the other ones. 50 on first target basically means you're gonna sell 50% of the trade amount in the first target and ignore and evenly divide the rest of the amount on the other targets, okay? By the way, my current strategy, which is not something I recommend, this is just literally the default, I think, as well, is evenly divided, which basically means I'm gonna sell an equal amount in each of the different take profit targets, okay? Decreasing exponential basically means that you're gonna, starting with the take profit target with the closest price to the current price, would usually be the first take profit target, okay? You're gonna have each target above that will have half the amount as the previous target, okay? So the previous take profit, the first take profit target will have the most percentage, then the second one will have half of that, the third one will have half of the second, the fourth one will have half the amount as the third, and so on. And we do it in a way such that the sum of all these targets is still 100%. Okay, so you might see like weird percentages there, but that's basically the logic. Each one is half as the previous one. Increasing exponential is exactly the opposite of decreasing exponential. Basically means the first one will have the least amount, and then each target as you go up have twice the amount as the previous target, again, such that the sum of them equals 100%, okay? Skip first basically means that I don't want to sell anything in the first target. I just want to evenly divide the amount on the other targets, but I don't want to sell anything in the first one. One use case for skip first, for example, is if you're in a signals channel that usually places the first target very close to the entry targets, okay? So some people might do that, for example, because they want it to seem like their channel is doing better than it actually does. Okay, so they want always the first target to reach no matter what. So they put the first target very close to the entry targets. Now, we notice that many people get frustrated by that because, for example, if they have trailing stop, the first target is reached, right? They sell some amount there, and then their stop is moved to the entry price. And then if the price falls even slightly, then the rest of the amount gets stopped out, right? So if you want to avoid that, for example, you can do something like skip first, okay? Then you have the option, sorry, just 1 second, we have a question there. First target 50, second target, does that combo walk you under 50 first target? If that would be the case, only to answer Matthew's question, he asked basically if the 50 first target basically means that we can do something like 50 on the first target, 25 on the second, and 25 on the third. This will only be the case if you only have 3 targets, right? Because basically what 50 on the first target means that you sell 50 on the first target and then evenly divide between the other targets. So this will definitely be the case if you only have 3 targets. If you have more than that, then each one will have less percentage, right? But you can, if you want specifically to only sell in 3 targets and then sell 50, 25, 25, you can do a custom strategy, what I'm gonna go over right now. So one more thing to say about decreasing exponential and increasing exponential. One case you would, deciding between these two, if you were noticing that the market is really in an uptrend, we're in a short period, for example, of a bull run, okay, maybe it would make more sense to do increasing exponential, because you want to sell less in the first target and then keep selling more and more as you go up, because you expect the prices to always go higher up. Okay. On the other hand, if you're in a bull market, right, and you expect the first target to usually get, like we usually get the first target, but the other ones you're not so sure about, maybe it would make more sense to do something like a decreasing exponential. Okay, so this is something to consider. Do you have any data on which take profit strategy has the best outcome? So we also get this question a lot, asking for recommendations on this different strategies and asking which ones is the best. There is no secret sauce here, right? It really depends on what channel you're following, because if one channel gives usually a first target that is very close to the entry price, it's very different than someone who gives the first target which is much further away from the entry price, right? So there is no one thing fits all. This is why I recommend consulting with the admins. Some groups even posted their own strategies that they think work better with the type of signals they post. Okay, so I know this is not the answer you want to hear, but there isn't like a one that always works. Okay, we will do in the future something that is going to allow you to kind of test different strategies, or at least we recommend based on our history on the signals which strategies might work better for the signal group. But this, as you probably imagine, is not an easy task, and it's going to take some time to do. But this is definitely something that we have in our roadmap and that we really think will be helpful for you guys, okay? The last thing we can do in the strategy is create a custom strategy. This basically allows you to define a strategy, other than the ones that we have listed here. If none of these works for you, then you can create a new custom strategy. And here you basically can, go into the different targets and change them. So I can say, okay, the first target, I always want to sell 10%. Okay. The second target, I want to sell 25%. The third one, you know what? I don't like the third target for some reason. I don't want to sell anything there. Okay. So as you can see, whatever I put in is slowly filling out this right here. Okay. When you go to save, in this case, for example, the sum of the percentages does not equal 100%. So if I go and try to save it, it's going to say invalid ratios. Make sure the ratio is summed to 100%. So I just need to make sure that the sum of all of these is always 100. Okay, so in this case, I have 10 plus 25 plus 5, so I need 40 more percent. Let's go to 5 and just put in 40 here to fill it out. Now, when I try to save it, it should allow me to save this strategy. Okay. One thing I want to point out is what happens, for example, if you have a strategy like this, but the signal only has, for example, 2 targets, right? So how does the bot realize what you want to do there? So it's basically going to take the ratio between the first and second target. So in this case, for example, we say the second target, I want to be 2.5 times the first target, right? So it's going to take that, maintain the ratio between the targets, okay, and just make it such that their sum is still 100%. I hope that makes sense. It basically just redivides it on just the number of targets that exist in the signal. Okay, because I'm assuming that you don't want, if there's only 2 targets, to sell just 35% of the amount in the trade. So this is why we did it this way. I hope that makes sense. And then basically when you click on save, you can give it a name. So here we can call it doors test strategy. Okay. Send it to the bot, and then you can see this option added right here in the strategy section. Now, if I want to use it, I can just click on it, okay? And now the strategy has been defined as doors test strategy, okay? If I go back to trading configuration, Binance, strategies, take profit strategy, you can see it right here, current is doors test strategy. See another question in the chat here. If the channel provides the exit strategy and gives clearly defined targets, I don't have to configure this strategy myself, correct? So this is what I really wanted to get into now, which I think is something that many people really maybe don't understand fully. By default, okay, if the signal contains percentages for each target, so by default, the bot is going to use the percentages that are posted with the signal. Okay, so it's just going to use whatever. So if the admin said I want to sell 25 here, 30 here, this is what it's going to use. If the signal did not contain specific percentages for each target, then the bot will take the default from your configuration, right? So if you didn't set anything up, the default will be evenly divided. So the bot will just sell an even amount in each of the different targets. Okay. The third case is what happens if you have a strategy you want to use always, regardless of what is in the signal. Okay. I actually have it set up right here, but this is the default, right? The default will, when you come in here, it will say switch to personal configuration, because the default is to take the signal configuration. If you want to always use your personal configuration, you just click right here, switch to personal configuration, okay? And this will cause the bot to always override the percentages that are given with the signal with your personal configuration, okay? So if I go back to the configuration page and I look at the take profit strategy, you can see that it's defined as doors test strategy, and it says override yes. Okay, which basically means the bot is going to override the single configuration with your personal strategy. That's going to happen every time. Okay, so this gives you the option to really personalize your trading style and make the signals work with your personal preferences. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So, you know, if you have any other questions of that, please ask in the chat. But other than that, we're going to keep going to the next part. Okay. Does the signal have to physically contain the percentage symbol for the bot to prioritize it, not just the price targets? What do you mean the percentage? Oh, you mean like as far as parsing it for the, in the text? Like if it has to, Ori is probably more capable of answering this question. Ori?
Right now the signal, the parser doesn't really parse the percentages from the signal if it's directly published in the channel. Just if the admin posting the signal via the bot. But I'm working on a feature that will allow the admin basically to, instead of publishing ratios in each of the targets, the admin can basically post the signal with the configuration of a specific strategy that you want. If it creates, let's say, if you want to post the signal with decreasing exponential, we would be able to do that. That's basically the new feature that's going to be added in the next few days.
Okay, there's another question here. Override all signal configuration. No, this should be changed to yes to use for all signals. Am I right? So you can just say, okay, I'm going to override all my configuration, like all the signal configuration by clicking on this. But this can also be set to no, as long as you have the override set to yes to the specific configuration that you want to override. This will still work with all the signals. Okay. What if it reached target 1 and then went to downtrend? What happens to remaining amount? Will bot sell at stop loss? So we're going to go into trailing right now and explain a little bit more about what a bot does. We have some mechanisms to help you protect your investment and really lock in the profits that you make. So it really depends on your trailing configuration for the stop. Obviously, if you don't have any specific trailing type and the price got to first target and then went down to the stop price, the bot will sell the remaining coins in the stop. Okay, whatever the price may be. So this is a good segue to the trailing configuration. Okay, we have 3 different types of trailing configuration. We have the entry, the take profit, and the stop trailing. Entry and take profit, I hope here that if you don't really know what it means, I really recommend what we did, like a visualization that explains what it looks like and how the price is trailing the maximum price that is reached or the minimum in the case of entry. So I really recommend going to our YouTube channel and checking that out. But very briefly, what the trailing take profit, for example, is doing in the case of a long, okay? So let's say you have a target set to 1,000 Satoshi, okay? And you set the take profit to, let's say, 1%. 1% take profit trailing, okay? So when the price reached that target, instead of selling all the coins immediately, like in the case of traditional limit orders, instead, the bot will create a stop order, okay, 1% below that target price, okay? And then, as long as the price doesn't fall by 1%, we're still going to have that stop right there. If the price keeps increasing, okay, and doesn't decrease by 1%. So the price keeps increasing after reaching the target price. This stop price will keep trailing behind that maximum price that is reached by 1%. So in case of coin pumps, for example, okay, the price reached that target price and kept increasing, your sell price will also increase accordingly 1% below that maximum price that is reached and keep trailing behind it. As soon as the price actually drops by that 1%, the coins will be sold. And that refers to the amount that was supposed to be sold in that specific target, okay? So that's the purpose of take profit. Entry is basically the same. It's very useful in case of coin dumps, for example. So after a pump, usually there's a big dump. So if you place a trailing entry, it might allow you to buy the coins in a significantly lower price than just a traditional limit order. Okay. I see someone is raising their hand. Sander, if you have a question, you can write it in the chat. Okay, we have a question here. If you combine a 1% trailing take profit and a 0.5% trailing stop, when one be guaranteed a minimum 0.5% profit, taking into account the price does not go down before the first take profit. Sorry, let me read that again. Or do you understand the question, or should I read that again?
Yeah, you are asking what's the case what in the case that the price goes up but not reaching the first take profit, or reaching the first take profit. Because if the take profit is reached, then you have like you mentioned, that 1% trailing take profit, and then and then you have also a 0.5% trailing stop. Then basically you don't really assure that you have 0.5% profit, because if, for example, the price immediately go down once the take profit is reached, then basically you sell the amount in the first take profit in break even, because not in break even, but in the amount. It depends, basically depends on the target and how much it's above the entry target. So you don't really assure that you will sell in profit or not, but the target is more than 1% in this case. So when the price goes down below the take profit 1%, then you sell in profit anyways. Then yes, you will have a profit.
Yeah, I guess there isn't enough information to answer. That really depends on the signal, and it changes. I'll just try to answer some other question as well. So the trailing stop, is that Binance trailing or bot doing it? Binance does not have trailing orders. So the bot is following the price and then changing the price accordingly, according to your configuration. Is it guaranteed to track it with high volatility? That's a good question. We do track the price in very high frequency. Maybe Ori can give some more guarantees about how often that happens. But with high volatility, there's always the case of if the price just dumps immediately after an increase, for example, there are some edge cases where the stop can be missed. Usually high volatility, it should handle just fine, and we didn't really have problems with that, because most of the time the price will not increase dramatically and immediately drop more than an increase, for example, so it will make you lose the stop or something like that. Or correct me if I'm wrong here, but
I just want to add that in cases that there is a big dump in the coin price and you have a trailing take profit on, then we have a mechanism that basically maybe will sell in a bit less than you initially planned to, but it at least saves you and don't keep you with the coins in your wallet. Basically, if the price goes up and then the bot tries to increase the price of the stop loss, and then the price goes immediately down, and the bot basically wasn't fast enough to enable the stop again in higher price, and then the bot tries to set to increase by a bit the trailing distance, and then he tries to place the trailing stop, the trailing take profit a bit below the current price. So you'll still try to goes up, and you'll sell the trailing take profit in a certain price. That's a current situation.
Yeah. I'll just want to make sure I understand that most of the time this is not the case, right? Most of the time there's no issue, and we don't encounter like a price skip because of the trailing. So this was trailing entry and trailing take profit. Now talking about the trailing stop, I think this is one of the coolest features of the bot, and basically this allows you to change the stop price once the sell prices are reached. Okay, so that helps you really lock in profit. Let's go over the different types. Moving target basically means that when the first target is reached, the bot is gonna sell whatever amount or place in a trailing order, whatever amount was supposed to be sold in the first target. And then on the rest of the trade amount, it's gonna move the stop price to the break-even price. Okay, then when the second target is reached, it's gonna move the stop to the first target price. It's gonna basically keep trailing behind the target that is reached by one. So for the third target that is reached, it's gonna place the stop on the second price and so on. Okay, so that basically allows you to lock in profits. As the price increases and you achieve more targets, you know that if the price falls to the previous target price, then it's still going to sell in that price, and you don't lose the potential profits you could have had on the trade amount. Moving to target. I just saw a very big message in the chat. I'm going to read that in a couple of minutes. Let me just go over these different types. Moving to target, or if you can go over it in the meanwhile, that would be great. Moving to target basically means that when the first target is reached, nothing is going to happen. Only when the second target is reached is going to start, basically, it's going to activate this moving stop. And it's going to move, when the second target is reached, it's going to move the stop price to the break-even price. When the third target is reached, it's going to move the stop to this first price, to the first target price. When the fourth one is reached, it's going to move the stop to the second target price, and so on. So it's going to trail two targets behind. Okay, unlike moving targets, which trails behind one target. Okay. Break even is like I said, basically when it's only effective when the first target is reached. It's going to move the stop to the break even price, and it's going to be left there for the rest of the trade until the stop is reached or all the coins are sold. Okay. Target percent basically means that whenever a new target is reached, the bot is going to place the stop a certain percentage below that target price. So if this is set to 10%, when the first take profit target is reached, the stop is going to be placed 10% below that. Okay, and it's going to keep doing that. So for the second target, it's going to place again 10% below that second target price. Percentage, okay, is going to be activated once again when the first take profit target is reached. And unlike target percent, where the stop is moved to that price and is left there until a new target price is reached, for percentage, it's going to keep moving the stop below the maximum price that is reached, very similar to what I explained about the trailing take profit. Okay, so it's just when you reach the first target, it's going to create a trailing order, a certain percentage below that target. And as the price increases, it's going to keep increasing the stop price of all the other amount with that, below, like trailing below the maximum price that is reached. Once again, you have the option to switch to personal configuration if you want to always override the single configuration with a specific stop type. Okay. Let's do a quick break for questions again. Or did you read them? Do you want to answer any of them? Or should I?
Just read the first one and answer, and then I'll answer the second one.
Okay. How about walks? Oh, you want me to do it? Okay. How about walks in this scenario? Like first target reached, and before reaching second target, the price decreased 2%. and then it reached second target. So will bot sell all after 2% decrease? And we missed the second target. Okay, let me just read it. Like first target reached.
I'll answer.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that basically depends on the trailing stop you use. If you're using the trailing stop percentage, as Dor mentioned, and you're using 2%, so when the price goes up, reaches the first take profit, and then sells the amount of the first take profit, and then that's basically trigger and the trailing stop loss percentages with 2%. Then the price, as the price goes up, the trailing stop loss trails behind with 2% below the highest price reached at the moment. And then, as you mentioned, if the price goes down 2%, then yes, the rest of the amount will be sold at 2% below the highest price in order to lock your profit, because you don't really know if the price goes up afterwards or just keep dropping like 10% more. So you want to lock your profits as you can. Usually it's not recommended to use trailing percentage 2% because as you mentioned, 2% is not enough gap in order to let the price goes up afterwards. Because as you all know, when the price goes up, there's always a downtrend, at least a temporary one. So if you set 2%, you'll almost always get stopped out after reaching the first take profit. So that's for the first question. For the second one, for Kobe, you're not asking about the trailing at all. You're asking about the option for admins to edit quickly the entries or the stop on or the take profit, whatever you want. That option, as you mentioned, it's currently in the admin panel, where you should go to the signal section and then edit according to the changes you want to do. About the feature you are asking for, it's definitely in our task list, and we'll definitely develop that, but it might take some time because we have some other stuff at the moment. But it's definitely there and will be implemented. All right, goes back to you, Edo.
Okay, so I just want to mention like a couple of use cases for the trailing stop. Okay, so you might wonder why we added, for example, this moving to target. Okay, and the case for that is, once again, I remember maybe I mentioned earlier about signal providers that sometimes have the first target very close to the entry price, right? And that to always make sure that at least one target is reached. The problem with that is that, like I mentioned, if the first target is reached and then it drops even slightly back to the entry price, and you have a trailing stop feature turned on, then you might be stopped out very quickly and not really use the full potential of the signal. If you're in one of those signal channels that's the case for them, moving to target might be a good solution for you. That basically means that you wait for the second target to be reached before you move the stop price. Okay, that's exactly what it's used for. This actually came up by user demand, and that's why we implemented it. In general, I will just add, while we added that, we're very open to receiving new type of requests for stops or stuff like that. If you have that, please ask us, and we'll make our best efforts to really put it in the task list for us and make it happen. Okay, because when it comes down to it, we build this for you to enjoy and really make the most out of your signals. So this was the trailing stop. Okay, moving on. What will we want to do next? Let's go to amount per trade. Okay, so the amount per trade basically means, visually defines how much you want the bot to invest in any trade, any new trade that is created for this client. Okay, again, this applies to both the one-click follow and the auto trading. You can either define a percentage, or a fixed BTC amount. I think the big fixed BTC amount it's much more straightforward. Okay, you can either select an amount from here or just put another value here, like 0.01, 0.17 if you're adventurous, or whatever, and just send it to the bot. And this will always be used to create your trade. If, for example, you don't have enough that amount when the bot tries to create a new trade for you, the bot will not create this trade and will send you a message that you don't have enough whatever to create the trade. Because I know Ori's been asking a lot of questions like, what does this message mean? This might be the cause for that. Okay. The second one that is less obvious about the way we calculate it is the percentage. Okay, we get a lot of questions like, how do we calculate the percentage? Basically, percentage means that the bot will figure out the total amount that is currently invested in all your open trades, plus the free amount you have in Bitcoin in your in the exchange. Okay, and then we'll take the percentage you define out of that. Okay, it's not just the available Bitcoin you have; it's the available Bitcoin plus the amount in all your currently open trades.
I just clarify. It's Dor mentioned it. It's the free available Bitcoin, but in case you're basically trading, for example, if the signal is against Ethereum, so let's say that's ADA. Let's buy ADA with Ethereum. So it's the available Ethereum plus the open trades in the system. So it's not only, it depends on the pair you are trying to buy with.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that, Ori. Just like Ori said, it's the pair that is in the trade that the bot is trying to create a trade for, okay? The reason we did this, many people ask us like, why are you doing this weird calculation? The reason is that if we only choose a percentage out of the available amount, okay, think about it this way. Every time a new trade is created, the amount that you invest per trade will slowly decrease, right? Because the available amount decreases. If you factor in the open trades as well in this calculation, the amount that you invest per trade will be relatively constant throughout the lifetime of your trades, right? And that amount will not change so drastically as you enter and exit trade, because you pretty much want to invest the same amount every time. The advantage of using the percentage is as your account increases, right, as you gain more Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, the bot will invest more and more in each trade and will do this calculation for you. Okay? So this is the amount per trade. I hope that makes sense.
Just want to add one. We lately added the risk percentages, which is only for BitMEX at the moment. Which basically, again, that was due to a demand from the users. It basically like similar to percentages, but instead of calculate the percentages according to the liquidation price for BitMEX, for example, it's basically you can choose the risk you are willing to take. So, for example, if you want 10% risk, you want to risk 10% means that you want to lose 10% of your total portfolio in case that the price goes to stop loss. So that's basically a new calculation method for the amount per trade that you can use for BitMEX.
Yep, thank you, Ori, once again. We have a question here. If we have some trades already set up before the bot is activated, can we set the bot to handle them as well? So basically, if you mean by trades as in coins you already possess and want to sell in specific prices, you can create a trade with an existing amount, okay? And then when you put existing amount, it's going to factor that in as a buy that supposedly was done in the current price. And then you can set whatever you want, like a stop, sell target, and so on. And the bot will manage that trade just like any other trade, okay? Are you also planning strategy, I'm assuming, for longer term holds without sell only if it drops too much? I'm sorry, Manuel, I'm not sure I understand the question. If you want to clarify, I can try that again. Is it possible to combine the following: skip first, take profit, plus 2 evenly divided plus 3 moving target plus 4 less target trailing 5%. So we don't have a trailing for a specific target, so that's not possible at the moment. Moving target, then yeah, moving target is a trailing stop type, and the percentages have nothing to do with that. So you can configure whatever percentages for every target and have a moving target stop loss. And skip first target, take profit plus evenly distributed. This is exactly what skip first take profit does. It evenly divides the amount among the remaining take profit targets. Okay, I'm going to just keep going here because it's getting a little bit late. I want to make sure I cover at least most of these things. Let's go to number of entry targets. Okay, so admins have the option, instead of posting signals with specific entry targets, they can post a signal with an entry zone. Okay, like they say something like buy zone 1,000 Satoshi to 1,200 Satoshi. Okay. And then in that case, you might be wondering, how does the bot know in what prices to place your entries, right? Because they didn't say anything specific, they just said a zone where you want to place. The bot will use your configuration for number of entry targets, okay, which my current one is 4, and this is the default one. And it's gonna spread entry actual orders within that range as the number that you have defined here. So in this case, it's gonna put 4 orders in that range that the admin defined. Okay, and the distances between these orders is going to be equal. So they're going to be like spread equally in that zone. So this is really useful basically to average down your entry price and really do an emotionless, let's call it, trading, right? But when the bot is just taking the zone, putting the targets there, and it makes that choice for you. So this is what this configuration means. Default stop, okay, so this basically allows you to, no matter what is, so first of all, if the signal does not contain a stop, then the bot will use your default stop. Or if you have the switch to personal configuration turned on, like the override, so the bot will always use this percentage to configure where the stop is going to be. Okay, so this will be like, for example, 5% below the average entry price. So it's always going to put your stop 5% below the average entry price for that signal. Okay, that's the default stop.
Just want to add something. If, for example, someone is interested in not using a stop loss, for example, if he prefers to think long term, then he can choose the without and enabling the override signal configuration, and basically the switch to personal configuration in there, and then basically if you choose the without option, you open the signal, the trade upon the signal. Even if the signal has a stop loss, the trade will open without one. So that's basically the without option.
Yeah. It's not what we recommend doing, just to make sure like this is just one option. If you really think that, you know, you're always gonna average down the buy price enough and stuff like that, then you might not want to stop in signals, okay? So what we said is completely right. And I think the last one is the stop limit price reduction, which is also the one I hate explaining the most. Let me actually open a Binance right here, just to make sure it's clear. So in Binance, when you place a stop limit, okay, you have 2 values. You have the stop price and you have the limit price, okay? What the stop price basically means is the price in which the exchange is going to trigger your limit order, okay? So when that price is reached, for example, if we put a stop at 890, okay? So let's just put that as an example. How many zeros are there? Like 5, okay? So if this is the stop, and okay, this does not want to copy and paste. Let's try this. So this basically means that as soon as the price touches 890 Satoshis, the exchange is going to place your limit order at 880 Satoshis. Okay, usually what happens is that these are not in the same price, which basically means that when you get to this price and you place a limit in that price, right, it's going to be sold immediately. Okay, that's what basically is going to happen. However, okay, if from the moment that this price is reached, the price immediately reduced too much below this price, okay, then you can't, then your stop is skipped. Maybe you had some times when you placed a stop and then the price went below it and you didn't understand what was happening. This is exactly what happened. Your stop was skipped because the price dropped too quickly. What our bot allows you to configure in the stop limit price reduction is how much this price is going to be lower than this price. Okay, according to my explanation, okay, the bigger this percentage is, the more difference there is between the limit price and the stop price, and the less likely it is that your stop is going to be skipped. Okay, I hope that makes sense. However, okay, just to make sure everyone understands, if you set it to 10% even, okay, which I'm not telling you should do, but let's say just take an extreme, because this is a really extreme value for this. It's if you put it at 10%, so even if the price goes to this stop price and stays there, it doesn't mean that you're going to end up selling your coins at 10% lower than what you meant, right? It's just, it's still going to sell in that price or close to it. Depends on like how long it took or how low the price got from reaching that price. But it means that even if the price dropped immediately after reaching this price by 9%, for example, instead of your stop being skipped, you're going to end up selling 9% lower than this price. Okay, so this is basically the maximum that you're willing to tolerate losing from the moment this price is reached. Our default is 2%, and we found that usually this is enough. Like usually the price doesn't drop by more than 2% from the moment it reached this price. So usually this should be good enough, but it really depends on how much you're willing to lose in your trades. You might want to increase this value or lower it if you're saying, okay, I'm never skipped, and that's fine. But I hope that makes sense what exactly this means and why this is such an important value. If your stops are being skipped often, you might want to look at this value and consider changing this value. Okay? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. See, we have another couple of questions here.
Just before the questions, just one last thing. In the BitMEX exchange, you also have the stop type, the configuration, which means that you can choose between the market stop and the limit stop loss. By default, the stop type of BitMEX is market order, so you can change between them. The stop limit price reduction in BitMEX, if the stop price is set to market, is basically irrelevant because stop market have only one price. But if you change that to stop limit, then you have the stop limit price reduction active in that moment.
Can you maybe already explain why one would use the stop market, or like what is the danger of using it, let's say?
Yeah, so basically using the stop market in BitMEX is maybe important because stop limit might do some trouble in case that the liquidation price and the stop price is very close to each other, or even if it's not that close and you set the stop limit price reduction maybe too high, that cause that the limit price, as Dom mentioned, we have a trigger price and limit price is stop limit order. So if the limit price is, you set the stop limit price reduction, for example, for 10%, then the limit price is below or higher the liquidation price, depends on if it's short or long, then the stop limit could be canceled due to below liquidation error from BitMEX. So in my opinion, the safer way is to use market order, because anyway, the volume of those coins in BitMEX are extremely high. Anyway, there is no like 10 Bitcoin volume
Which
coins.
basically means that the price will not be dropped extremely quickly. Very
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ori. Should we try to answer a couple of questions? You know what? Let me just finish this up, and then I'll go back to questions again. There's one more feature I want to show that Ori added very recently. Okay, so if you go to trades and go to open trades, now you'll have an option to cancel all trades. Okay, this is something new we added. Clicking this will ask you, like, are you sure you want to cancel all your trade, right? So you won't click it by accident and then just close all of them in market price. If I say yes, just ask you again, are you sure, really sure that you want to cancel? Let's just say I am sure. Okay, it's basically going to cancel all your trades in market price. Okay, right here you can see that all the trades were canceled. If I go to trades and open trades, I don't have anything open at the moment. Okay, so if you notice that the market is really shifting, going into a downtrend, and you just don't want to lose, like your trades are in profit, you don't want to risk losing any more money on them, just you can do that. I'll just add that there are some technical limitations that basically, if a lot of people do this at once, we might not be able to fulfill all of it at exactly the same time, and you might get a warning like, not all your trades were closed. Okay, and you might have to try again later to really finish off the rest of the trades that weren't canceled yet. Usually this shouldn't happen. This is really in extreme cases where a bunch of people do this at exactly the same time. I hope that makes sense. Or you have something to add on that?
No.
Okay. And the last thing we added very recently in utilities, okay, is the option to convert BTC. So it basically just gives you the option to select a client or all clients. Let's just select this one and choose the pair that you want to convert your BTC to. Again, this is just in case where you see that the market is crashing and you want to quickly change it to USDT or something. You can choose it, and then the bot will just convert your BTC to that. Okay. Of course, you can also do that through the orders, market order, sell, like just to make it more convenient and faster for you. And you can also do that for all clients at once. This is basically it. I think this is everything that we wanted to cover in this webinar. We have a lot of other features that I didn't really get into now. I hope maybe next time to go over other stuff. But these are the main things we wanted to at least explain right now. Thank you very much for being with us and for being in this webinar. In general, being with us in this community and using our bot. We really appreciate it. Like I said, we're very open to criticism and feedback. So if you have any suggestion and something you want to recommend us doing, please just message me or Ori, and we'll be happy to at least think about it and see if it makes sense for other users as well. And we'll be happy to add that. Also, we have a YouTube channel that has some tutorials. We try very hard to keep it updated, although it is not fully updated. It has some, we try to upload new videos every once in a while, and we're trying to make it, more of a thing we do really every week or two. Like I mentioned, we very recently released a video on the strategies, and we're going to keep doing that for other parts of the bot as well. So feel free to go to our YouTube channel and like and subscribe and be really updated on the content that we put out. Okay, this will be put on YouTube, so you will be able to go back and see the specific things you maybe didn't really quite understand. And if you have any other questions, feel free to ask me or Ori about anything that was mentioned in this video and anything at all. This is it. I hope this was helpful for some of you at least. And again, thank you very much for being with us. I'm going to stop the recording right now. Okay. Let's see.